Welcome to the E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Founded in 2013, the EHL is your next step on the path to college. Over the past decade, the EHL has established itself as the college placement leader on the East Coast. And now, here's your host, the commissioner of the Eastern Hockey League, Neil Ravin.
Thanks, Jim. With that, let's bring in Jeff and Anthony. Guys, we are one day away from the start of the postseason. Like,
what? How did this happen? That's what me and you were texting last night, right, Neil? We were saying that on your 10-hour adventure home from beautiful Aston, Pennsylvania. You had to drop the kids off at the Railers Mansion and then brought your way back to beautiful Hampstead, New Hampshire. And how are your spirits this morning there, Commission ADP? You guys feeling a little, your voices sound good.
Yeah, I was drained last night, but I feel okay today, honestly. It was a long weekend, but I feel okay.
Good.
Yep,
Chase
same here.
Night for you?
Yes, he did.
Good. There we go. Anthony?
The morning after I came back from Philadelphia, I got out of bed maybe around 11:30. My legs just felt like jello, and I thought, no, this isn't happening. And I just crashed right back to my bed. I did nothing all day yesterday, and it was beautiful.
Those are those old days. Showcase legs? Those spaghetti legs there, Anthony?
Yeah.
Yes. But there was nothing to do yesterday, Anthony. There's one thing to do today, listen to this podcast, and then tomorrow the playoffs start. So let's start talking about them and around the E Show.
Let's take a look at what's going on around the E Show.
Around the E Show is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code EHLB1. That's EHLB1 for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
Let me preface by saying that if you're listening to this podcast immediately as we post it, I'm still uploading the schedule, okay? Like, just give me the number of texts from the coaches last night. Well, when is this schedule going to get updated? Guys, I left, we stayed in Delaware, technically, right? Little Flyers play is like, literally, it's basically Delaware. Like, it's like that bottom right corner of Pennsylvania, and we stayed in Wilmington. I pulled out of the parking lot at 7:30
a.m.
Yes, at the DoubleTree, right? I pulled in my driveway at 4:15 p.m. Yes, we stopped to eat. Yes, we stopped for gas. Like it wasn't like I just drove straight through, right? I'm sorry that the first thing that I didn't do was go upload the schedule. Like, I want to like just breathe for a second.
Yeah, I think everybody should know who they're playing. Where did you finish? Here, let's give you that little cheat sheet. We always like to give instructions, right, Neil and Anthony? Let's give you instructions. Okay. So if you finished in last, I'm sorry, but you will not be participating in this year's playoffs. It's a new rule. We love you, but we'll see you next year. And then after that, just go to the Frozen Finals playoff page. You can see what seed you finished, and then you'll see what seed you're playing. And then the rest of the details will follow after that. All right?
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
So, but let's start in the North Division.
Let's do it.
And we'll start with that 4-5 matchup. I found it fascinating. Probably frustrating for them, but the Valley and Vermont both get down there and they both lose the first day when they're both thinking, oh my God, they lost. Why don't we take advantage of the other? They both win the second day. They both win the third day. I'm sure it's disappointing for. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Neil, technically, Valley did not win the third day. They lost in a shootout, but they got that much needed point.
yes, that's a great point.
Special point.
It felt like a win, right?
Yeah.
But for Vermont, man, like,
that's tough.
The fact that it comes down to the last day, like,
right.
Now you go back and you just circled this game and you circled this game and you think, like, if we get this balance. I mean, there was a recent series they had with Valley where they won one and they lost one. The game they won was in overtime. The game they lost was in a shootout. Like, a little bounce and you're in the playoffs. That is that's insane to even think about.
It is. And credit to Seth Gustin, because as we know that in that first chunk of the season, right, the Lumberjacks had played the most games. They were sitting in dead last. They had a massive gap there in the North, and credit to them and the Warriors. Warriors, same thing. They both were kind of doing their beginning of the season malaise, and then they just kind of both ran out of it at the same time. And I don't know if I'm sure obviously you two saw, but I don't know if everyone else saw the interview with Jake Basile and Captain Manning.
So good. So
oh,
good.
that
Like,
was it gets you.
you know what's great too is like we talked about all the alumni interviews we had in the second half of the season. Like he's a future interview. Like he just earned
Yeah,
it. Like
100%.
that is
See you
the
next week,
perfect
Brendan.
that is the perfect like display of perspective, right?
Mhm.
They did what they were supposed to do. You can't make up for what took place in the past. It's out of your control, but you did what you had to do.
Right. And he
And
said everything about Coach Gustin and
yeah,
Maurice and just the Lumberjacks in general and his time there. He was there for a couple years. And then he says like the cool thing too, right? Anthony, about like, what's done is done. We're gonna go on the bus, we're gonna go have some fun, and we're gonna, see what happens. And that's the other thing too, right? This is supposed to be fun. Like it's a serious game. It's become a serious business, right? We're all employed because of it. But at the end of the day, it's still a sport and it is still fun. And that's really cool to see someone like Brendan Manning that gets it at a young age. He just gets it, and that's just a really cool thing for him, the Lumberjacks, and the EHL in general.
Yeah, one of the more fun moments we had, and we had this huge back office space, Jeff. You would have loved it. It was like a party room in between rings 3 and 4.
DZ Discovery Zone.
Oh yeah, so the
ball pits and everything.
yes, so Trevor, our videographer, was talking with Matt Pacheco during that Valley versus Rough Riders game because obviously at that point, Vermont they became huge Rough Rider fans, right?
Mhm.
So Matt Pacheco was like, "Can you let us know, as things are happening because there's a 30-second delay on flow hockey, right?" So Rough Riders scored first. Anthony's calling the game, and Trevor FaceTimes Matt Pacheco, and he's like, "Why are you calling me?" And then you hear, and they all go nuts.
That's awesome.
Ultimately, it didn't work out because the game went to overtime. Yes, Anthony, you're right. Valley didn't technically win, but they got enough with the 1 point that they made it in. But I just thought it was. I think it's pretty special when it comes down to that last game like that, right? It shows you just how tight the league really is. And credit, we'll get to the Central, but credit to the Rough Riders for just playing it out all the way through.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you had a couple of O3s on that team, John D'Erico, Cooper Smith, and among others who, while the Rough Riders team struggled, they had some terrific players on that team. And Smith and D'Erico, they both scored. They both had a couple of points, had chances to win it in the shootout. So I think for them, it was just, and I said it multiple times on the broadcast, it was just important for them to try to go out on top.
Yeah.
And for them to battle down the way they did down the stretch, right? I mean, they just, they played your 87s recently, tight Anthony losing 3-1, lost 3-2 to a good Maryland team in overtime. So just a credit to Steve Brown, credit to Eric Lynn. I know the season didn't go the way they wanted to, but just a credit to them to try and play spoiler down the stretch and to, not just play out the string. They played their, what's off, and they made things interesting in that last day. That was a heck of a Warriors Rough Riders game. 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-3, like to go back and forth like that. And I'm sure it gave Ryan McGrath, congrats to him, some chest pains on the bench. But no, and then like that was another great interview, right? That Jake talked to Coach McGrath, and Ryan had great things to say about his captain leadership with Hoffman and Fagan, and credit to those guys to be able to buck up. And actually, ironically enough, I'm wearing a bucked up shirt right now. Buck up. For those guys to, rally the troops and get those guys to the playoffs. We've said the Warriors have been playing a lot of great games lately. We'll see what they can do in the North Division playoffs. Their first time in the North Division playoffs.
For sure. I was very happy to see just how hard the Avalanche, Seacoast, and the Wolves all played things out, right? I mean, they knew the Wolves still had to go down there and get a point or two to really close 3 officially, but they knew where they were 1, 2, and 3 respectively. But they played things out hard, each one of them throughout the end. And now where we're at in that division, and the brackets are on the league website for those that haven't checked yet. They're at the bottom of the playoffs page. Avalanche are playing the Warriors, and that will be next week. First round series, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I'm sure it worked out better for the Avalanche that they get to travel to Haverhill, not Burlington, Vermont. But whatever, we'll see how that matchup fares for them, right? We'll get more into it too, right? And then, as I think I've mentioned a few times, this is now the third straight year that the Wolves and Spartans face off in the first round series. It's almost like we should start next season by booking these dates. Just book them into the regular season calendar, right?
Right.
And they are actually playing theirs on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So they line up pretty similar: Wednesday, Friday, Saturday versus Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. But there's your 1-4-2-3. And since this is the last podcast until the end of the first round, we aren't gonna do official brackets, Jeff. We're gonna
I'll say you trying to make me sweat over here, big guy?
I'm gonna leave the brackets to the fantasy thing, fantasy challenge, right? But in terms of these two first round series, what are you guys expecting from Avalanche versus Warriors and Spartans versus Wolves?
I mean, the Avalanche have been a juggernaut all year. Now it's time to do the old flip the switch. I know that's a term that a lot of people say, oh, you can't really flip the switch, but we've yet to have an Avalanche Frozen Finals without the Avalanche. So is this the year? Hello? Chris Sorrell just called and said, nah, not yet, Jeff. We're gonna be there. I'll see you there. But no, I think that's gonna be heavy. Warriors play a heavy game. The Avalanche showed that. Sorry to bring up horrible dead bodies, but that Avalanche New Jersey 87s game from back in Newington, Avalanche showed they can play a heavy game that game.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, they've showed they can play heavy. They can kind of play all those different styles. I think Sam Bowes had a really underrated season. What did he lose? 2 games in regulation?
Yeah.
I know he was one of the showcase stars from this weekend, but he's been great. We just
going up against his former team, nonetheless.
Yeah.
How about that for a
storyline? There's
storyline?
your storyline, right?
That's a lot of old teammates over there. He played with, he played with Fagan. He played with Hoffman.
Yeah.
A lot of those captains and whatnot. So that should be interesting.
That's probably the biggest storyline of that Valley versus Avalanche series. And then, as I said, third straight year, Exeter versus Laconia, Spartans versus Wolves. And listen, those are two teams that went down to Philly kind of knowing that was the matchup. And the Wolves just swept the weekend.
So they're 4-0. They're our only team streaking in a good way.
Well, that entire organization, between the both teams, they had an incredible weekend. The EHLP team was able to snap the Railers' winning streak. And the Wolves had that weekend that they did at the EHL level. Also, just quick thing I do want to point out, their game against Applecore, they had a defensive zone face-off with 15 seconds left. They rimmed it around the boards, and who else but AJ Lackus scores on a 2-on-1. I noticed there were a lot of last-second goals throughout the showcase. There were some late-game heroics, and there was an abundance of it. I was kind of taken back by that.
No doubt.
Lackus had 6 points and a game-winning goal. And like you said, we'll get to the EHLP later, but Zach Spikuza and Harrison Kramer. Spikuza had 12 points. Kramer 9 points. Ooh. That was a good weekend for the Wolves.
No doubt.
Statement for them. Another team that knows how to do it, right? We saw them get all the way and surprise some people. That's what I'm really looking for, Neil and Anthony, is who's gonna. I feel like it's been a little bit when you look at the all-time page of had a lot of chalk champions. We've had a lot of probably minus 87s. I think were probably not a chalk champion the year that they won it, but just are we gonna get any surprises? Are we gonna get a team that's gonna sneak in that's not a number 1 seed? Could we get someone like a Valley? Could we get someone that's a lower seed? That's what I think we all kind of want to see. Sorry to all the teams that are higher seeds, but it makes for a little better journalism for us when it's it's a little bit of a Cinderella story, someone like the Express from years ago. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of really looking at and trying to see. And I know every year, Neil and Anthony, we always say this league is so deep. There's so much parity, la-di-da-di-da. But if we could get a team or two maybe that kind of can crack through, then maybe that would really show us how deep this league is. And I really do think that something weird may happen this year, and you might get some kind of weird team there or teams.
Yeah. No, for sure. And speaking of those, maybe a lower seed that can make it, Jeff, The Terriers are probably one of the best 4 seeds we've ever had, right? Like,
Ooh, you see those start lineups with Jake Vasile, speaking of?
that was like,
That was electric. That
that
got me so
was,
fired up. Oh,
yes. It was funny because I was standing there with Cody and he's like, get Jake over here. I have an idea.
oh, that
I'm
was
like,
Cody's idea?
it was
Let's
Cody's
go.
idea. And I was like, hey man, can you come behind so-and-so's net on rank 3? Yeah, what's up? I'm talking with
Just
Cody.
got the
We
chills.
and we have an idea we want to run by you. All caps, I'm coming now. Let's go dogs, right? And I'm like, okay, I don't think he knows what he's about to get asked to do. So we tell him the idea. It was probably the first time I've ever seen Jake kind of think for a second, like, do I want to
Ooh,
do this? And
right.
he's like,
Put you on the spot. The
and he's like,
spotlight's really on
you
you.
know what? Yes, I want to do this. Um,
It was a
so
natural. Cody's face was interesting too. In that they show him first, he's like, he had that little smirk. So, well done, Coach. That was a
they
great idea.
so their first step though is the play-in game against the Seahawks, which is this Friday the 8th at noon. If they
Yep.
can get through that, then they'll match up with the Express as the number 1 seed in their division.
Oof.
Yeah, that's not easy by any means, right?
Oof.
That game 1 was either next Tuesday the 12th or Wednesday the 13th. Still waiting to figure that out. Probably will know more once we know who their opponent is. On the flip side, the Rangers and Wizards, that was a flip down there. Wizards went down to Philadelphia as the 2 seed, Rangers as the 3. They just flip flop. So the Rangers are 2, Wizards are 3. Listen, they're only like 15 minutes apart. What difference does it really make? I guess you could say. Besides the Zamboni door, that sometimes kicks the puck out into Tewksbury.
Sometimes, almost always.
But you know what? While we're here, why don't I find that schedule too, just so I can say that I found that one. They're all in my inbox. I just haven't totally got to them yet.
Right. Like you said, you can go on their social media and you can see the bracket there too. So it's still
the bracket's there, and a lot of the teams have put out their own graphics with the schedule, which has been kind of cool to see.
saw that too.
I kind of like that that vertical looking bracket too. That's
yeah.
That's kind of refreshing.
Move. Credit to Justin. He comes up with a new bracket, style every year. Like it's like I honestly never know what it's gonna look like, and it comes and I'm like, this is so cool.
Excellent.
Their series is 13, 14, 16. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday between the Wizards and the Rangers. So these 5 teams, Express, Rangers, Wizards, Terriers, Seahawks, the juggernaut division of the EHL this season. What's it going to take just to first get yourself to at least one step away in the East Division Finals?
The $1 million question, as you like to say. I mean, all these teams can score goals. We know that. Rangers scored the most out of their entire division with 185. Wizards right behind them. The Wizards, I really want to see how their style of play plays out in the playoffs. This running gun that they've been doing all year, where they score a lot but give up a lot. It's just I just don't think that's going to work in the playoffs. So, and then the rotation, who starts? They've been rotating a few different guys, right? Do they have?
I think I have some insight. I think I have some insight.
I just couldn't see. Neil just gave the.
I think Ingram. I think Ingram is going to get the start in game 1.
Not Ackerman.
I think they're going to go with the 05.
Okay. Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
There's a spot. Here, young buck. 05. Whoop. Come on.
Talking about goaltending and defense too. How about the Express? They Jack Boschert committed, aged out, and sure enough, the Express are one of 2 teams to give up under 100 goals this season. They've been able to score goals, but they've done just a terrific job keeping pucks out of their own net, and I think that's going to be huge. Last season they fell just short to the Boston Junior Rangers. I think they're looking for revenge, and their defense and goaltending has just been spectacular this year.
I bet you.
Question. Is it Josh Gerard? Is Champlain? Caning? Who's going there?
I think it's gonna be Caning. I think for sure. I think.
Okay.
Judging by the fact that he was given the Avalanche game of the 3 games this weekend, that to me is like
playoff preview,
like a little hint, like that's our guy, right?
Okay.
And I'm sure.
I do love what they finally have though with goal scoring, right? I mean that's what's been missing the last couple of years. Samopoulos, Walker, Perry, McElhaney, Earns you. Smilowitz, like now this team's deep. They have the scoring they needed. they always had the goaltending, but now you got the guys that can put pucks in the net.
Yeah.
I think the Express team's gonna. No offense to the I love you, Bill Zanaboni and the Seahawks. As far as the Terriers playing in the playing game, but Terriers Express, I think that would definitely go 3 games, and those would be 3 hard played playoff games.
Yeah. But I do think in the Express locker room, I bet you there still is the feeling of getting to Providence the right way would be to go through the Rangers. That's probably in the, like not that if it was the Wizards, it would be the wrong way. But I'm sure
they're
like
the champs.
I'm sure to like slay the dragon, like that's who you want to go through, right?
Absolutely.
So, to
they're the champions until they're not.
Yeah.
You know.
To the Central Division, if you're making your Friday plans, you could technically, and I know one Jake Basile may be doing this, go up to Canton for that noon start for Terriers versus Seahawks. Spend the 2 to 3 hours there, go get an early dinner, and then 6 p.m. down in Rhode Island, 8C Rhode Island versus the Chiefs for that playing game on Friday night. Winner gets the Railers, right? So
what a present!
What a present!
Get into the playing round. Here comes the historical Railers. Enjoy.
Yes, and then in the other matchup, of course, Avalanche versus Providence. But I want to come back to the Railers for a second because my funny moment, Jeff, was I told Bertoni after their first win against Vermont. Technically, they clinched the regular season title right after the game was over by a goal. And follow me on this, right? So the teams that they were competing with for that regular season title going into the weekend were the Avalanche, the Apple Core, and the Express.
The Express, yeah.
Avalanche and Apple Core both lost that first day. So that wiped them out of the possibility of being able to catch them. Technically, the Express, after that first day, or their first day, I should say, it was day 2 technically of the showcase, the Express could have still caught the Railers. If both teams had won out completely, they would have finished with the same exact point total. The Railers would have won the tiebreaker by 1 goal. Because they both beat each other. They both beat each other in regulation. And it was only 2 games. One of them was 6-3. One of them was 4-2. The Railers won that tiebreaker by 1 goal.
So it's head-to-head goals.
So it's head-to-head.
Goal differential in the season series is the second tiebreaker.
Technically, it's the 4th, right? Because it's head-to-head points, then head-to-head wins, then head-to-head regulation wins, then head-to-head goal differential. So Bertoni's like, all right, you can go get the trophy, bring it in, we'll present it to the guys. No problem.
That was cool too.
Yeah. So he talks to the team. He says, all right, bring it in. I turned the corner. I was like, I can't fit in this locker room. I was not expecting. I was not expecting that, right? And they're like, put it here. I'm like, all right. I put it there. They step back, take the picture, and now they're all like, take it away, take it away. And I'm like, wait a second, you're not taking this? I know you. I heard
a bunch of guys go, don't touch it, don't touch it.
Yes, they didn't want to touch it, but I'm like, I gotta bring it home now. I gotta bring it home now. Okay. So I literally walk it back onto my car. Like, here's what the trophy did this weekend. It got put in my car. It came out for the picture. It went back into my car. Like, okay.
That trophy could talk. Dad, what are we doing? We're going home. We're not staying here. We're not welcome.
I just mentioned in the East Division, if it's someone other than the Rangers, they're going to feel like they have to beat the Rangers to get there, right? Is that same feeling consistent in the Central with the Railers?
It has to be. I mean, they were the best team record-wise in the entire league. We've talked about all these other teams about doing it the right way. Their differential was over a century mark, 104 plus 104. Only 86 goals against. Do we have goals against in the all-time?
I do not.
Against.
Yes, that will be an off-season project. Yes.
Yeah, right. We'll dig through all the damn rosters and finishes and stuff, but yeah, and I mean, then the Apple Core. I know Lenny and Nick. I talked to them a good amount. Like, they're not worried about I put this in air quotes. I know people can't see. They're skidding down the stretch. How they lost a few games here and there. I know they were neck and neck with the Railers, but I know New York's not really worried. So I don't know. Do you have to go through the Railers? Do you have to go through the Apple Core?
No quit in New York.
No quit
I
in
mean,
New York.
it'll be interesting too because again, this would be a potential second round matchup if Apple
Yeah.
Core and the Railers were to face each other. The fact that the Railers haven't faced Apple Core since they got Ryan Croshaw. They have some other new guys, Luca Olsano, Mike Maziarchuk, all these new acquisitions. But I was also talking to Ethan Poligo after some of Apple Core's games at the showcase, and they were saying that it's a matter of just dealing with adversity. They deal with it now,
Mhm.
and then come playoff time, you kind of shore up your game and get ready for the postseason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No
So
doubt.
does it have to go through the Railers? I don't know.
Yeah.
I really wish the Apple Core and Railers, or who was it I talked to recently that said, can we just get that large bid back for just this year in the EHL?
I mean, but also keep an eye out on Providence and HC Rhode Island.
Yeah.
They both had some pretty impressive games. I got to call HC Rhode Island's final game of the showcase, and I thought they played really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
in their
another
game
good
against
interview.
the Bears.
Ellsbury, Clayton Ellsbury with Jake. I really liked his poise
Yeah.
for a young goaltender, kid from Idaho, long ways away from home. That's a good point, Anthony, because I was just gonna say all these other teams are going, ooh, HC Rhode Island, James Mello, Providence, Jeff Perel, all these guys listening are like, why are we already we're already creating these second round matchups, just saying that these teams are automatically gonna lose, which
Yeah.
again, I just have a feeling that somebody's gonna sneak past somebody. Maybe it's just because I just watched the 11 seed Robert Morris Colonials upset my number 6 seed Bentley Falcons in depressing fashion with 10 seconds left in overtime, about to go into
Yeah.
double OT the other night. Maybe that's why, but I don't know. It just feels like the year of maybe some upsets. So don't count
Yeah.
your eggs before they hatch.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. But HC Rhode Island, they that win Anthony's talking about was over the first seed, the number 1 seed, New Jersey Bears in the South Division. They had already previously had won their 2 games. It felt like the last day of the showcase. For a few of the South teams, it was like, all right, we're done. Like, let's just get to this day and move on, right? Because the Bears lose the last day, Team Maryland loses the last day, right? But
87's lost last day.
there you go. Exactly. The
Everyone.
little Flyers won the last day, but 4 of the 5 lost the last day, right? The play-in game for the Little Flyers PHC, that's tomorrow. So yes, I will get that one on the schedule first for those that are wondering. That's taking place tomorrow night. The winner of that gets the New Jersey Bears, and then 87s versus Maryland. I want to say in postseason history for at least the second, maybe third time, Anthony. These two teams are facing off in the playoffs. I do remember at least one series.
The year they won the championship, they played against Team Maryland. And that was when Josh Fusco was still coaching. And the 2018-19 season, the 87's first year in the EHL, they lost to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights, but that was a team coached by Josh Fusco.
Yes.
And I remember Adam Hooley saying it meant so much that they were able to get past a Fusco coach team.
Yes, the next year.
They always just seem to play that like grind it, muck it out hockey that is just so fitting for the playoffs.
And that's, I think, the great point, Anthony, because Eric Projan took over for Josh Fusco right at the start of the season. And the job that he did with that team, that cannot go unnoticed, right?
Yeah. Heck of a job, Eric.
I think it helps that Jake Hugeson became like a brick wall.
Also, going up against his former team, just like we talked about Sam Bowes.
Wow.
Same thing with Hugeson going up against the New Jersey 87s.
What a storyline that is! Like,
what a beautiful thing.
Yes. And on the other side, the Battle of Philadelphia first, right? We got 2 Philadelphia teams: Philadelphia Hockey Club versus Philadelphia Little Flyers for the right to face the Bears.
Little Flyers know how to win in postseason.
Yeah,
do it again.
I think to your point, Jeff, of all the divisions, you could come up with any combination of teams for the South Division Finals, and none of them would surprise us, right?
No.
When we record a week from now, right? So
weirdest division we've had in the EHL all year,
every year.
So
to the EHLP we go, and nothing changed first to start in the New England division. Adirondack is still the 1, Vermont the 4, Wolves the 2, Avalanche the 3. I don't know what we learned about any of these teams, because it felt like each of them had ups and each of them had downs at the showcase. But I do think, and we're not. There are no brackets, right? But there will be for the fantasy challenge. So I'm gonna have to pick one against the 4 other guys that won a monthly challenge for fantasy. I'm
It was
really
Mr. Unger that came out on top.
yes,
Oh, actually,
yes,
sorry. We'll
yes.
get
It was
to
Mr. Unger, but we will get to that.
We'll get to
I if I had to pick right
Spoiler.
now on the spot on this podcast, I'd say the Wolves in this division. I just think the goal you mentioned this earlier, Jeff, the goal scoring. That's what really stands out to me about the Wolves P team. We saw that down in Philly. They didn't win every game, but they'll score with you.
Scored.
They
Yeah.
will score with you.
I got to call their game against the 87s, and Harrison
7 to
Kramer had a
6.
pair of goals. They were down
Whoa.
5-1. They were down 5-1, and they scored 3 goals within the first 4 minutes of the second half. Later, they tied it. 87s pulled ahead. Then the Wolves pulled the goaltender, and Spikuza scored on a great deflection with 45 seconds left in regulation. So
Yep.
they didn't win that game, but it was the hardest of hard-earned points that
Yep.
I've seen in that showcase.
For
We had
sure.
six games go to OT in the P. Look at that.
It was insane.
How about that Railers Thunder game? Railers winning 4-1. So that's kind of like brass of one division versus brass against the other.
Yeah.
That was the closest that got was 2-1. Then Railers kind of walked away with it a little bit. That's an interesting.
It's a great transition because the Railers did win 2 of their 3 games. Their loss was to the Wolves. But by winning the 2 games that they did, they set the win record. 38 wins. They weren't as excited about the regular season trophy presentation. I'm not going to lie. The EHL guys had a little bit more energy. Maybe because the EHLP guys had won it previously by like a week, and they're like, we already had our moment, right? But I took that trophy home too. If those are there keeping track, that's also down in the basement again. But
EHL headquarters.
Yes. The 3-6 matchup got confirmed down in Philly. Express locked up the 3 seed, so they will face the Bandits. The Warriors clinched the 4 seed, so they will face the Seahawks. For those that are wondering why there's no direct line on the EHLP playoff bracket to that next series, we do reseed, right? So if it stays as chalk, you can draw a line where the 1 seed Railers would face the 4 seed Warriors and the 2 seed Rangers would face the 3 seed Express. But if there's an upset there, either from the Seahawks or from the Bandits, it would force us to do a reseeding. For the Rangers, I will call out the fact that there was a moment in February where the at-large wasn't as crystal clear for them, but as has been the case for how many straight years now, if we get a Railers Rangers division final, they're both going because the Rangers have the second best record in the league. It's not going to be easy though. I want to make that clear. It's not going to be easy because I think between the Express and Valley, and the Seahawks at 5 too. I think those 3, 4, 5 are arguably the best 3, 4, 5 seeds we've ever had in the history of the EHLP.
100%. I mean, the Express would have been 2 points out of finishing in first in the Mid-Atlantic, 1 point out of finishing first in the New England, and then the Warriors right there too at 58 points. So like we've talked about that all year. What a
turnaround season too for the Express EHLP team because last season they only had 12, 13 wins or something where
and they still almost surprised the Rangers.
Because Nick Piazza just decided to turn into Dominic Hasek for 3 games.
That made Tyler
it was incredible, but they had that close call with the Boston Junior Rangers, and they just never looked back. They just kept getting better and better.
Yeah. What does work out for them, as opposed to the EHL version of the Express, by being the 3 seed, if they win, they're locked into facing the 2 seed, which of course is the Rangers, right? So they know through their own destiny, they can get the Rangers matchup that they want, try and get the revenge that they want for last year. Because if you're the 3, you physically cannot face the 1 in that first round series. So they got to get through the Bandits first. But if they do so, they'll get the Rangers, and then the winner of the other series, Valley versus the Seahawks, which I think could be an awesome, awesome series, would then face off against the Railers.
Yeah. How about
Wrap-
Charlie DiMartino, Mr. McDavid, huh?
Oh,
What, he finished
yeah.
with 86 points in 44 games?
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah, I mean,
smokes.
yeah. Little tease could be the MVP. We'll get to that.
Could
Anyways, so
Good candidate. Good early candidate.
wrapping up with the Mid-Atlantic Division. I didn't want to have to do math, but it became a math problem. We acknowledged on this podcast previously that the 87s and Chiefs were both only going to reach 41 games.
I was gonna say, are you okay? I need to check your pulse.
Oh, yes. You know what? I have to be, right? I'd love to force them to go
Not
play.
changing, Commish.
I'd love
Not changing.
force them to go play the game right now to make it feel better
Yep.
in my head,
Mhm.
right?
I know
But
you would.
ultimately, the 87s get the 1 seed over the Huntsmen by 0.006.
What?
Yes.
Wait, so even though the Huntsmen finished
Yes.
1 point ahead of them?
They didn't
Because
play
of the games.
because of the games. So the points percentage, the points
Oh,
percentage
that's
for
what
the
it is. Yep.
87s, it was greater than the Huntsmen by 0.006. So
it was such a long shot for that
Yep.
to happen, but the 87s just managed to win all 4 games there. They end the regular season on a 13-game winning streak.
Yep.
And their final game was against the Boston Junior Rangers. Chris was on the call in rink 1. I was working down in rink 4, so I'm just checking the score, and I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So they won.
What would have made it go the Huntsman way, Jeff? To make it easier to decipher than the points percentage, right? Is really just 1 point.
Mhm.
If the Huntsman had 1 more point or the 87s had 1
Oh.
fewer point, that flips the percentages in their favor. And the
They-
Huntsmen lost
had
games in overtime this weekend.
They had outshot the Adirondack Junior Thunder to something like 45-15. Apparently, on the score sheet, they gave Adirondack 19 shots, but up on the scoreboard it said 15. No, really. And Jim Fitzgerald for Adirondack won it in overtime.
Yeah.
And you think there for the Huntsmen, if they had scored another goal in regulation, AJ Murphy was spectacular in goal for the Junior Thunder. You start to think about those what ifs, and the Huntsmen could have had that number 1 seed.
And
it's a hell of a sport that you can do that. Just so you're like, oh, what if? We just did that in Dan Heinen for ripping the side of the net last night. Bruins should have won 2-0, and they lose 2-1 in overtime.
100%.
They lost an OT or shootout this year. I'm not pissed. I'm good.
He's good. He's calm. He needed to get that off his chest.
I love this game and I hate it at the same time. It's a game of, it literally is a game of inches, shifts, little breaks, little luck, 0.66 point percentage things. Like, holy hell.
So
wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But Little Flyers are facing Union in that first round series. And then, I call it the play-in series. And then the Renegades versus Chiefs in their play-in series. Winners will then reseed to line up against the 87s and Huntsmen. And we'll have one more podcast before the division finals. But if it ends up being Huntsmen versus 87s and the 87s get to host what feels like could be an inevitable game 3 because of 0.006, like that is like oh my
I
God.
just want to say though, I'm looking forward to that Union Philadelphia series because the Junior Thunder have really picked it up throughout the season, and I think they're going to make some noise in that first round series against the Little Flyers.
Yeah.
Another team that's bounced back from, last year was their expansion year in, and they've done a lot better this year too. So credit to Sam Taffel and the Union Junior Thunder for sure.
Yeah. So if you go to the league website and you find the EHLP bracket and you're trying to foresee how the at-large is going to work, right? On the bracket on the right side, that's how every team finished in the league standings order, right? So essentially the way to do it is when you follow the bracket, once you see the left side start to fill in with each division champion, you can kind of draw an X through their team on the right side. And then when you get all your 3 division champions filled in on the left, you go as far down as your X's take you, and that's going to give you your at-large. So it could be the Rangers. I mean, the 87s and Huntsmen are hoping that the Rangers get knocked out in their first round series, because if that's the case, and it becomes an 87s versus Huntsman division finals, then they both go because one of them will have the at-large. What if one of them gets knocked out along the way? Adirondack has some protection there. Then you got the Express, the Warriors, and all the way down. So this is something to really keep an eye on, is how this at-large is going to work in the EHLP. But yes, Anthony, I love those brackets. I just the look and the feel. Like, I love how this is so like minuscule probably, but like the bottom of the bracket, the circle where the eventual division champions is a little bit bigger. Like, I can't wait to see them fill themselves in here over the next really 3 weeks, because we're recording this on March 6th, guys, and a few weeks from now we're already going to be into day 2 of the Frozen Finals. Let's just remind ourselves of that. Like, this is all going to happen very, very quickly here. But
places.
places. In the interim, what will also happen, Jeff, is we'll be able to have our first ever round of champions to determine this year's winner of the eShow Fantasy Challenge. So it's time to explain how that will work to all the folks at home.
Now it's time for the eShow Fantasy Challenge. Follow along on the EHL app, available now for free on both Apple iOS and Android.
I don't want to spend too much time on our Yahoo League, Jeff. I'm too frustrated with it anyways.
Like, I am too, dude.
I just
pumped Justin last week, and then I got repumped. So.
Yeah, like it's getting stupid. It's just getting stupid. I have McDavid, so yeah, I got gifted 2 assists last night, but I probably would have chose for the Bruins to win the game anyways. So it is what it is. It is what it is. You know, on to DraftKings, because their offers don't go away.
Yep, I'm 5-15. I'm ready for next year. I'm ready for the first pick overall in Yahoo Fantasy. Actually, no, that would go to Jim McCabe. Sorry, Jimbo. He's 2-18.
Yes.
Things are a little tougher for the CK and Chiefs than they are for my Meek Mills franchise. But yes, Neil, it is time to go hit DraftKings. And we know how hockey games move fast. Both DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. Does that include Connor McDavid? This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers, as I just said, can bet just $5 in the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings with Sportsbook. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Do you have a gambling problem? If so, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER, or you can visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, you can call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is also available for problem gambling. You can call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. You can void that if you live in Ontario. Bonus bets do expire 168 hours after issuance. So see dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved.
I'm not sure if you guys saw this on Sunday night, but Melissa from the Express, who finished in second place, took the lead on Sunday night.
Really?
So she entered the final day ahead of Kevin Unger. She's a billet mom for the Express, but she always takes care of us too. So it feels like she's like our de facto billet mom. Partially because Peyton Myers led all players this past month with 72 fantasy points.
Good Lord.
Harrison
That's
Kramer,
usually what some people get in like a month, their team gets them in a month.
Harrison Kramer had 71.
Wow.
So she took the lead going into that last day, but then when the Apple Corps beat the Huntsman and Davis Kinney had 2 goals, an assist, a power play point, you name it, he did it. And Peter Unger had some points, and Kraushaw got the win. That was enough to push Kevin Unger back into the lead. I mean, he put up 158.2 points.
That's a new record.
Wow.
I'll say we didn't. Anthony finished with 114.6. You finished with 112.4, and I finished with 99.2. If I remember correctly, there were some months for winners that were in like 98, 99 range.
Yeah, my winning month was 108.
Damn.
So it's
we're right there, but just
yeah, I mean, this was a little bit more than a month. Remember, we had
true.
February
That's true.
plus March, so that was 33 days, if you will, as opposed to the
point.
standard 31. So I'll put my flag in the ground for that and say that Kevin Unger's 50-point difference basically between my total and his is only because of the 2 days. But I'll defend myself in the round of champions, which isn't going to involve fantasy points. My notice went out to the 5 champions, well, 4 plus myself, yesterday, that we are going to each pick our own bracket. And
I like that.
if you get the series winner correct, you get a point total for that. You get a bonus point total if you pick the number of games correct, all the way through up until the Frozen Finals, where 2 of the 5 will move on to pick the 2 Frozen Finals series. Probably going to have to pick, goal totals to really differentiate once we get there, since the number of series goes down to just 2. But 2 of the 5 of us will move on. Pretty awesome that I've already received 2 brackets back. So I'm not going to look at theirs, though. Okay? Logan Iliff and Jola Chase. I'm not going to use yours to do my own research.
Howard Beach.
I'm gonna make my own picks. But it's just great. That's an Apple Core alum in Jola Chase. Logan is a friend of the Apple Core broadcaster, Tim Moore. That's how he got involved in the fantasy.
Cool.
Apple Core father and Kevin Unger. Well, he still has to submit his picks, but they're coming. They're coming. And then Cheese father and Marc-Andre Dumont still has to submit his picks. So
I wonder who they're
Heavy
going to
core,
pick
baby.
for the Central Division.
listen,
Easy.
my hope, Anthony, is if we had an EHL sports book, I would hope that I would enter this postseason as the best odds to win. I would hope that it would go me, maybe then Joa Chase, and then the rest of the 3. But I need to the pressure. I actually feel pressure. I'm not gonna lie, right?
Oh.
Like
You won many a fantasy championship by yourself.
I
on
think
a team with me.
I think that would be my question for you guys, is like, if I don't at least make it to the final 2, I won't hear the end of it, right?
Go retire, hack.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Like,
See you later.
like there's a lot of pressure on my shoulders to
that's true.
take care of business here.
Yep.
So
You're
we're gonna,
definitely the odds-on favorite. Everyone else is the underdog, I would say.
I really need to put in the time to make sure to really research. And these are picks for both brackets too, right? So we're filling out brackets for both the EHL and the EHLP. So I hope
Let's go, big ass commish. Don't become the first 3 letters in your title. Make yourself.
What I'm going to do is I will update the fantasy page on the website once I receive everyone's picks, and you'll see exactly where we're all at, and it'll be a fun ride to see who wins for sure. So
there you go. There's the bonus round. Pick on who's going to be the next commitment to what school. Get the mascot right, the head coach's name, the arena name, and
that would be some significant bonus points. So
right.
And for those that are wondering, I obviously cannot cheat now that the spotlight is on.
That's for you, Justin. Lots of kids deal cheating.
Thank you to everyone who participated from October through this final month in this year's version of the Fantasy Challenge. I think it was far and away the best version we had of all the years. Cool. Right? So gear up for next year. And right now, we'll go to what to watch for and gear up for our play-in rounds and first round series.
And now here's what to watch for in the EHL and the EHLP.
What to Watch For is presented by Flow Hockey, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action throughout the 2023-2024 season.
So, let's just let's go one matchup apiece. Each of us, let's pick an EHL series and an EHLP series that stands out to us between the play-in round and the first round. So if you would like, I will go first, guys.
Right ahead, Commish.
Yeah, so for me, the one that really jumps out the most would be the Spartans and the Wolves at the EHL level. For the 3rd straight season. Each of them has taken care of business once previously. So it feels like almost a rubber match, if you will, between the two teams.
Mhm.
And two teams that it feels like every time they get together, they could be destined for overtime, right? So that of all the play-in and first-round matchups in the EHL, I'm most intrigued by that one. As for the EHLP, I'm gonna circle Valley versus the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks were honestly a little underrated because of just how good that division was all season long. I mean, like Jeff, you said this earlier, like they'd be in second place in other divisions,
Yeah.
and they're a fifth place team.
Right.
Like that just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real. So
Mhm.
I'm most intrigued initially by Wolves versus Spartans EHL and Valley versus Seahawks EHLP. Who's next?
Uh, I mean, I'm really intrigued by Warriors Avalanche. Like, I'm trying to look and see what the season series was. I forget. I know the Avalanche won big in one of the games. Um, but I don't know, just something tells me that the Warriors, maybe it's finally the move to the North Division. Like they could maybe test the Avs a little bit. I don't know if I feel if that feels like way out of place by saying that or not. But and again, it just feels like a year where someone might get surprised. I don't know. The Avalanche they haven't played a ton of meaningful games again. And I think we said this last year, Neil and Anthony, didn't we? That we were like, oh, I don't know. New Hampshire hasn't played a lot of meaningful games lately, and then they still figure a way to just turn it on in the playoffs. But I
Yeah.
think the Warriors could battle the Avalanche in that North Division series.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm kind of interested in seeing what that has in store because Wizards Rangers I think will be interesting too. Anthony, I don't know if you're going to pick the South, but I think your division too with the 87s in Maryland is going to be another really interesting matchup too. But yeah, so I'm going to pick that in the EHL and then in the EHLP. Hmm.
Wait, so you picked 87's Maryland?
No,
No, no.
I'm gonna go Avs. I did my typical me and just talked about a couple of ones, but I'm gonna go Avalanche Warriors as my pick for the EHL. And then EHLP. Hmm, where do we want to go here? Adirondack in Vermont seems interesting. Um, I mean, you already said Warriors Seahawks, Neil. That will definitely be interesting. Wolves Avalanche. Can the Wolves score like they were at the end of the season against a tough Avalanche team? So yeah, I'll go with Wolves Avalanche as a good pick to watch for in the EHLP.
Okay.
Anthony.
Well, I guess I'll just have to stick to the South End or Mid-Atlantic Division. I also just want to correct myself. The previous time that the 87s and Team Maryland faced off was in the 2020-21 season. So that was the first time the 87s had made it to the Frozen Final when it took place at Iceline instead of
Yes.
Providence.
Yes.
Just like with Sambos going up against his former team, I think with Jake Hugeson going up against Team Maryland. He started the year with the Boston Junior Terriers, got traded, immediately became the best goaltender for Team Maryland, averaging like 40 shots a game. I think he's going to play with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, but it should be a good matchup.
For sure.
And I think for the EHLP, I'm going to put emphasis on it again. I think the Union Junior Thunder, Philadelphia Little Flyers in that playing round, that should be a fun matchup. And while Union doesn't look like, if you look at the standings, I think they really have looked like a better hockey team. David Toman has been sort of driving the bus offensively for Union, just like Tyler Goebel did last season. So I think they've got good goaltenders, Sean Klein, Logan Powell. So I think that they have a legitimate shot at winning their first playoff series this year.
For
Maybe
sure.
Union does what the Express did last year in the P, as far as being that kind of
Very
underdog
well could
team.
happen, Jeff.
Don't judge them record wise kind of thing. Yeah, that could be interesting. We will see.
All good matchups, man. Every single matchup is going to be a good one. And Jeff, I think you're right. It feels like we're going to get something
So you guys feel that too? Am I just pulling that out of my you-know-what? But it just feels, I don't know, maybe it's because we want it, and if you really want something, you're supposed to do like the secret says and picture it and envision it and put it into the world. And we wanted it last year. We almost got it with some of those teams, right? We almost got Spartans in the EHL, and so yeah, I don't know. Just put it out there again for us journalists that don't have any true dogs in the fight. It's just funner when it's newer teams and something different. So
between last week's podcast and this week's podcast, we went from 39 teams still playing hockey games to 35, right? Because there's 4 EHL teams that didn't make the playoffs. The next time we record and drop a podcast will be on Monday, March 18th, and the 35 teams that we have will be down to 14 remaining.
Oh, wow.
8 in the EHL and 6 in the EHLP. The next podcast we have is after the first round ends. It's before the second round, aka the division finals.
Wow. So nothing next week, kids. Nothing next week.
So 21 teams will be getting eliminated in between these podcast episodes. So that's a huge number when you really break it down like that, right?
Well, so we'll have plenty to talk about, is what you're saying on the sounds like.
In between the 2 podcast episodes, though, if you want to mark this on your calendar, in about 5 days from now, Monday the 11th, we will be hosting an EHL award show. Okay, we'll be giving out all the awards essentially in between the play-in round and the first round. Details for that will be released soon, and I guess that's kind of taking the filling the void of no podcast next week. So let the best month of the season that already has begun, but let it really begin now, guys, because it's playoff time in the EHL and EHLP. We'll talk to you guys soon, and good luck to every single team in the postseason.
Yep. Good luck, team. See you, boys.
Thanks for listening to the E-Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.